It is episode 15 of NitroNights. Welcome back to all of the regulars. And for everyone who is new, welcome to the eSports racing show that brings you all of your needs. Now, I'm your host, Tom Deacon, and I have a brilliant team behind me. And we bring you a brand new guest every single episode. Today is no different. We will be welcoming René Buttler, a host, a commentator, a business manager. Kind of see him like a one-man band / a Swiss Army knife. Can't wait to get him on the show to chat about sim racing. But before that, 2 words: YouTube, Twitter. Are you following us on both? If you're not, do it right now. And please keep sending us your brilliant comments and also your retweets. We absolutely love them. Now, before we get to the interview, I would like to do a weekend preview. And there's only one man that I would choose to help me in this task, to make me look brilliant. That is Yannic Hauske. He is the NitroNights editor. Welcome to the show, Yannic. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me, Tom. Let's have a look at the weekend.
Ooh, listen, you said the other day that I have a second job and I wear a shirt. Well, I've worn a shirt today, and I see that you're wearing denim as well. We've gone double denim.
It's a bit of a fashion faux pas, I guess, but we'll just keep going and pretend it never happened.
Okay, let's pretend we never mentioned it. All right, so where shall we start with the weekend preview?
How about some rFactor 2?
Ooh, good choice. This is the GT Challenge Series, and it's a little bit of a recap for you, Yannick, because round 5 is brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic. The Sebring International Raceway in Florida. Now, currently in the championship, there's 4 drivers. You had Sedlacek going into round 5. At the top, Michi Hoyer. Then you had Nico Barclay, and then Lorenzo Arisi. Now, getting into the sprint race, Hoyer was in pole in qualifying, and guess what? He won it, and Arisi finished second. Now, bear that in mind, because the reverse grid in the 45-minute main feature, Alex Siebel was in pole for that. But Michi Hoyer, again, he locks out the event. He wins both races. So he has very much got one hand on that championship. Now, finishing second in the 45-minute feature race was Sedlacek. And he was in second. So he is still in with a shout for the championship. It's going to come down to the wire. And round 6 will be heading to Le Mans. I cannot wait for it. There you go. Can I possibly, Yannick, mention my F1 virtual Grand Prix, my second job? Can I mention it now?
I want one question answered. Who's the better co-host, me or Natalie Pinkham?
Ooh, tough questions. But while I'm here on NitroNights, of course, you are the best co-host.
That was close, but all right. We'll do it. Talk about your second job.
All right, fair enough then. I feel like I got away with that. Listen, it's taking place at the Spanish Grand Prix, Sunday, 6 p.m. GMT. Now, there's 3 big names in the world of football who are going to be joining. And now I can't say their actual names, but I'll give you some clues. You've got a Champions League winner joining. Then you'll have a World Cup final back in Brazil, 2014 player who played in that World Cup final. And you'll also have a Brazilian international driving and joining the rest of the guys. Very excited about that. Plus, you'll have the usual Charles Leclerc, Alex Albon, George Russell. They'll be battling out at the top of the order. We know that. There's no doubt there. Because as we always say in NitroNights, practice makes perfect. The question is, though, Yannick, will we be hearing the famous Alex Albon shouting, "George"? Will that be happening? Only time will tell. Yannick, where should we go next in the weekend preview?
How about some more GT action?
Ooh, yes, the SRO eSports GT Series 2. Now, there's 5 rounds and a grand final event. And don't forget, you guys, the community of sim racing, get to determine where those last 2 tracks are. So, the new SRO eSport GT Series, now it kicked off in absolute fashion with a pair of 1-hour Assetto Corsa Competizione races at Silverstone. Now, the Bentley factory ace Jordan Peppers kicked off the season in style with a Pro Series win. And for the Silver Series, it was victory for Patrick Selva. Now, that was round 1. We head into round 2, which is going to be on the 10th of May. Cannot wait for it. It's going to be at Spa-Francorchamps. That is going to be Pro and Silver Series. Oh, do you know what? You could just feel my energy in this today. Yannick, where should we go to next?
You know how some people like driving on tarmac, others like driving on gravel, a bit of road. We have the best of both worlds. Rallycross.
Okay, tarmac and gravel. That would be Tavel. The combination of the 2. Could we call it Tavel?
No, it's Subaru IRX.
Okay, fair enough. Let's call it that. Subaru IRX All-Star Challenge. It's round 5. I saw this morning, actually, Yannic, that Scott Speed will be competing in it. Now, that is a perfect name for a racing driver. Next up is going to be Atlanta Motor Speedway. Brackets, long. Close brackets. And now the previous round, round 4, was at the Lucas Oil Raceway. Sammy Matti Trojan won that. And I've also found out that in the 15th of May, it's going to be taking place at the Hell Lankabanen in Norway. Any Norwegian followers of this show, you can correct me on my pronunciation there. But don't forget, this competition, Yannic, the points will be accumulated over those 6 races, and then you'll get a $10,000 donation for the winner to a charity of their choice. Whew! There you go. It's quite a long title, that one, but
the one flaw you have as a host that you're not named Tom Talk.
Yes, of course. That's very true. Okay. Where should we finish with our preview of the weekend races, Yannic?
We'll finish with the best name in esports, the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup.
Indeed. Now, listen, it was back-to-back wins for Red Bull. It's all, of course, taking place in iRacing. Now, currently, after round 1, Sebastian Job has 72 points. Graham Carroll has 70 points. And Joshua K. Rogers, last year's winner, has 68 points. Don't forget, we're calling this the World Cup of sim racing right now. 40 drivers competing. I can even tell you that Max Verstappen is competing in this, and he has 20 points. In German, that is Svansig. So well done. Not just a pretty face, I've got facts as well in different languages. Round 2, we head to Barcelona on Saturday, May the 9th, 1 p.m. GMT. Did you like that? A little bit of German there for you, Yannic?
Yeah, you're a polyglot. I'm amazed, man.
I'm laughing because it's so untrue. Listen, thank you so much, Yannic, for helping me through the weekend preview. Cannot wait to get into all of those races, hopefully on Monday when NitroNights returns. Right, listen, stay tuned to watch the interview with René Buttler. All right, so I introduced him as kind of a one-man band / Swiss Army knife. He's here right now on the show. René Buttler, great to have you on NitroNights.
Thanks, Tom, for inviting me, actually. I said already I'm a bit nervous, so I hope it will work, but I'll do my best.
No need to be nervous at all. I love your setup in the background. And at first, when I looked at your door, I thought, that's the tiniest, thinnest door I've ever seen in my life. And then I realized it's actually one big whole door.
Yeah, I'm not that tiny. It just looks like that on the picture. I compress everything.
Well, listen, René, first of all, I described you as a one-man band, a host, a commentator, a business manager, rFactor 2. What is your job exactly? Let's start there.
I would say my main job is definitely business manager at rFactor 2. So I handle stuff around marketing, licensing. So that is licensing from cars, tracks for the game, or license our software to someone else to use in championship TV shows, whatever. The same for business development. So obviously work a lot with clients or partners we're running championships with or projects with when they use our software for simulators, for their race teams, for car manufacturers. So everything that kind of touches what happens with rFactor 2 in its life cycle, basically.
Basically, that's email upon email upon email. Am I right?
And a lot of calls. I mean, that's fine, right? Could be way worse.
Yeah.
I know. I enjoy it a lot, especially since our software is used in so many different, different partners in so many different ways. So there's always something cool new coming up that you might have never heard about, and then you get a request like, "Can we do this with it?" And then you dive into the code with the guys from the development team and see what can be done. And then there's obviously the esports and more like sim game side, like actually selling the product, right? Making sure that we have championships that engage people and that everyone has fun with rFactor 2.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I'm definitely engaged with the GT Challenge Series at the moment, and Michi Hoyer, incredible scenes from that driver. Will he win the championship? I don't know, but I mean, it's great to see because obviously once the Corona situation took effect on everyone worldwide, how did it impact you, and how have you tackled it?
I mean, on the side of the studio, like Studio 397, our studio behind rFactor 2, it was easier, I would say, than for most other companies because we were used to doing a lot of homework anyway. And not homework at home office. Homework as well, though. Because we got a studio in the Netherlands. but we're not always there, right? Because for most of my task, I don't need to be in direct touch with the development team whatsoever, right? So you can do most of it on calls. So when the situation happened, it was quite easy to change to that. It was like, we were able to still go on every day. Some things slowed down a bit, as with every company. Sometimes it's just because one of the partner closed the doors, or we couldn't get hardware over whatsoever. Many different ways to delay things. But overall, I would say it was quite okay-ish for us to dive into that and actually turn everything to home office.
Yeah. Would you say, obviously as a host and a commentator / caster, I want to make sure, if you call it casting, I want to make sure that I don't offend. But
good.
have you been surprised just how much it's almost like been an explosion of everyone getting involved, and particularly with your rFactor 2?
It was quite surprising, yes. I mean, when it started to go into the direction of lockdown, I was thinking, okay, what can we do? How can we make sure that there is content? We produced many things from home anyway, not big studio events, which is slightly different to what I normally do on the esports side as host or commentator. But we had everything set in place, and we were playing around with ideas. So, maybe we can find one or two guys that we know, racing drivers that we worked with before, if they want to take part and race. Then we got in touch with the race on the All-Star Series. And then it kind of happened, right? And all of a sudden, we had Montoya and Sebastian Vettel, or many other amazing racing drivers from all kind of different ages of motorsport even racing with us. And we're now in contact with them basically every day as preparation for the next weekend, helping them to set up their rigs, to make sure that the software is running fine for them. So it is a huge change, and I would have never expected that. I'm quite honest. Obviously, we had a lot of drivers that used the software before, but now seeing it so often regularly on TV, on Twitch, YouTube, with these guys is really amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. Not only Jensen Button just showing how competitive, how good he's been, but it's also Piro on his deck chair and Jack Villeneuve on a controller as well.
Yeah.
Just amazing to see. And I think it's not only giving the fans something entertaining and joyful to watch, but we just love, immediately it was all fun, but then suddenly it was so serious, the races, that they want to win. Every single driver who competes wants to win.
I think the best episode we could ever do is probably showing the WhatsApp chat during and after the races. I think that's even more entertaining, but so far we couldn't.
No, is that a dream or a plan that you have?
I would love to do that, to be honest, because the guys obviously do a lot of banter, and you can see how it turns from, I'm just here for fun and I really don't care, to the first laps like, I need to become quicker, I want to win this race. And it's like they all get into this competitive mode. But most of them are friends, right? They know each other from the different races, or the different series, or the past when they did karting together. It's absolutely amazing seeing that in WhatsApp groups and our Discord channels. And I think it would be cool to one day show that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, I do have a question that I was probably going to ask later on, but I think it's perfect to ask now. Is esports racing then, in your opinion, about competitiveness or entertainment?
I think that's hard. I think as a driver, you need to understand that it has to be both. It's a bit like real life motorsport. Let's be honest here. It's very unlikely that all these companies will pay a lot of money just to figure out who's the quickest in driving in circles. Right? It's all about marketing. It's about advertisement, selling a brand, right? So it must be entertaining, even though we obviously want to be very, very competitive. And I think that doesn't need to be one or the other. I think it can be both. It's just with motorsport, which is a very classic kind of sport, and it was basically built on the idea of there's technology, and now people can see first time a car running 300 kph, right? Nowadays, everyone can do that. Not everyone owns a car that runs 300 kph, but you know what I mean. It's not a technology that's not accessible anymore.
Yeah.
So
and also,
it now changes.
You've got those autobahns where you can really put your foot down. I have to stay max 70. I mean, I'm rolling, but 70 is the max. Sorry.
I just think it's time now that we see what motorsport might wrong, because if you look at the history of motorsport, there's only one category that was built for TV audience, and that was rallycross, the whole format of it. But the rest was built on the fascination for technology and seeing something that they normally couldn't see. But that isn't the case anymore. So we need to make it entertaining. And I think that still works without throwing away the idea of racing, definitely.
Yeah.
Because racing is entertaining and racing can be thrilling. It's just virtual motorsport, or digital, however you want to call it, now allows us to run formats that we couldn't do before, right? I mean, we can race on 4 different tracks at the same day. You can't do that in real life because it's kind of hard with logistics. I just think it's more now about figuring out what do we want to keep from classic motorsport and what can we add to it to give it that entertaining vibe to make sure that it remains and doesn't go the way of motorsport.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant how you explain that, René. In terms of you putting on a competition, then there seems to be so many. I mean, when I do the news review or the races that are coming up, there's so many left, right, and center. And the avid sim racing fan is very quick to comment on the level of that competition. So how difficult is it to build a competition?
I mean, you've got quite some experience on it now, right? I mean, I'm doing competitions for more than 10 years now, I think nearly 15. Across all boards, I did Forza, GT Sport, I worked on Project Cars 2, and basically all major series the last years, even slightly on F1 eSports back then. So it gets easier to see where you want to go, but we also know that while feedback is very important to us, it's not always the only thing you should listen to. Because sometimes people just object something because they're not used to it, right? If you want to make sure that it's still entertaining while being competitive, you sometimes take a turn that the community might not see at the same time. They might be like, oh, we don't really want to do that. And then 2 races later, everyone's like, oh, that's a lot of fun, right? I love racing in this because it shouldn't only be fun for the viewers. It should be fun for the drivers. I don't want to race on my own without any fight for 2 hours straight. We all know it's cooler to go side by side, 3 wide into the next turn. So it's about finding the balance there and creating a competition that is long enough for people to actually dig into it and get interested in creating storylines, but still short and snappy enough that newcomers can come in, watch it, understand it, and get interested in.
Yeah. Well, listen, René, with your experience, I've kind of wanted to know with your Buttler Pal Motorsport, in terms of how connected real racing is with the sim games racing scene. How connected are they?
I think it's quite crazy right now. Nearly all the teams are running simulators anyway, or have a proper sim racing team, or get at least input from that. We know that sim racing and motorsport worked well together for years, right? Darren Cox proved it back then with the Nissan GT Academy. We had so many other projects over time that brought people into real motorsport. My own team now is basically a mix all of that. We do sim racing, but the same guys also race in RCN and hopefully VLN this year as soon as motorsport restarts, basically. So we try to be a team where you can do both and you don't have to decide, because I see with most teams out there, if you look at real racing teams going into sim racing, that they try to separate that right now. They have they have the department for real racing, they have the department for sim racing. And we want to be just one crew doing all of that together, because even if we might never have the money or the talent to be GT3, racing and motorsport is something that you can enjoy on so many different levels and so many different ways. So we want to maybe be at the forefront for that, to just show, hey, you can actually do both. It helps because we're practicing, obviously, in simulators for the Nordschleife, since we can't just run 100 laps per day on that track. We got quite successful last year. We won our class in the second race already. And the guys, we had some YouTubers now joining us for this season. Jimmy Broadband is one of our drivers. Dave Gaming for the German viewers. He just did his first ever appearance on the track as he just got his driving license. So he never driven before. And he was just a second off pace of Jimmy back then. And we know that Jimmy has way more experience already with real cars.
Yeah.
So it just shows that you can have a direct transfer from sims into the real car. And that's what we're trying to do. Use the same crew, same software, go for it.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And avid sim racing fans who've always wanted to try it can push for that. So I think it gives both ways an opportunity for people to move between one another. I think that's fantastic. And I feel bad asking this question now, but it isn't from me. Okay, René, this has come from Actrollvision. Okay, you familiar with Actrollvision?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, his question is very simple. Do you know the difference between a Civic and a Polo?
Are we talking about the cars?
Yes, that's his question. I do apologize. He's a previous guest. So...
I do. To be honest, like, try to think why he asked that question. But of course, I know Polo is a small car done by VW, and the Civic is a now slightly bigger car done by Honda Motors in Japan. So
I think that's answered the question.
I don't know. I know that he will probably be on Twitter now and blame me for all of that. It's like, why do you not know what it's all about? But I don't know.
It's like you said about the racing drivers afterwards. It'd be great to see your WhatsApp as you contact Actrollvision. And like, what are you on about? Listen, I tell you what I will do, though. I'll ask the questions that I've asked for good reason. So are you ready for the quick fire questions?
Sure.
Okay, here you go then. Something you've learned about yourself in this Corona period.
I'm actually really bad at entertaining myself when I can't go out.
Good one. I think everyone agrees with you on that. Best thing about Germany?
Nürburgring.
Favorite food?
Oh, pizza.
Okay, I did look through all of your Twitter and found on New Year's Day the leftovers from the night before. Fantastic meal. Listen, favorite host or commentator to work with?
There's so many. Demon.
Okay. Who do you prefer more, Jolyon Palmer or Jack Nicholls?
Jack Nicholls.
Best game you play?
As in me being the best in it?
Yeah. Best game that you play? Your favorite game that you play?
rFactor 2.
Good answer.
There was no way around this.
If you could have any other skill you don't already have, what would it be?
Playing instruments. Guitar, drums, that would be cool.
Both at the same time. See? Swiss Army knife is René. Guitar and drums at the same time. I've never heard a plan or an idea like it. Best part... best circuit to commentate or cast on?
Spa.
Best freebie you've received?
Oh, a practice run during VLN on the Porsche Cayman SP4T.
Very lucky. And finally, your final question in the quickfire round is most famous person you have in your phone contacts?
So I got Vettel, I got Montoya, and some of the other guys. So does it count?
You have to choose who's the most famous.
Most famous, probably Vettel then.
Oh, okay, perfect. Listen, congratulations, René.
This will start big discussions, probably.
And that is exactly what we want to do. Well, listen, that's your quick fire questions done. Now, I want to ask a few more questions about your experience with eSports compared to the eSports racing scene that you have. What sort of contrast have you noticed? Not maybe professionally, but also just the scene and the community as well.
There's obviously a huge difference between how people see the actual sport, right, of esports and sim racing, because we always have the discussion, sim racing and esports, is that the same? Do they follow the same rules? Then also we have something that we can look at, right? We can look at motorsport. We got people coming from motorsport into sim racing. Didn't saw anyone from the army so far joining a Counter-Strike team or anything like that. So I think that makes sim racing quite unique, and that we can transfer these, even though I think we should concentrate on sim racing and being good at that. I think that has a bright future for all the drivers that are really, really good in sim racing. But it is just that unique feature that's probably the only esports that has a direct transfer into real life sport, even though I dislike to say real life, because sim racing is real life sport just like any other sport.
Yeah.
Might not have the same effect on your body as it would have sitting in the real car, but none of the different sports disciplines have the same effect, right? So to me, it's as real as doing a real race.
And you may have noticed, and I'm probably not supposed to talk about it because it's quite controversial, but the whole Lando Norris, Simon Pagenaud, you've got that incident where you're like, well, hang on, some people say it's just a game. Well, yeah, like motorsport is the competitive game. The race is a game in many respects. It's a sport, and yet you can't suddenly say, well, it's the professionalism that I absolutely love in esports racing. Take it professionally to be competing, but then you suddenly can't pick and choose when you treat it as, oh, it's just a game. Do you know what I mean?
I think there is an issue because we obviously also want them to have fun, right? Many of these drivers are coming from a very stressful environment. We want them to enjoy it. Although I have to say, on the other side, it's if I treat it as a game, that's fine. If I crash into the wall and I really don't care, which normally isn't the case, that's fine. But he doesn't know how much time Lando, for example, put into this, right? He was racing for real. He was trying his best, and ending someone else's race because you decide it is only a game for you or it isn't important. I think that's just isn't fair, right? I don't go into any other game and destroy someone else's experience just because I think it's not important enough for me at this moment. And especially with events running on such a big scale and on TV, and obviously sponsors being involved, it's not like that these guys are solely doing it for fun, right? They still have their contracts, they still have their obligations and being visible and all that. So I can understand the big discussion about it. And I think we need to make sure that people treat it in the right way because, like I said, even if it's not your thing, it might be Lando's thing. So sorry, you can't just interfere with that.
Exactly. I think you sum that up perfectly. It's just the talking point at the moment about esports racing and esports in general. And I think that's a good way. Like you almost have to say what you're going to do when you go into that race. This is for fun. I've got all enjoyment. And then we'll see the WhatsApps afterwards.
Yeah.
Finally, René, what do you expect for the next few years because of this corona period that we've had and the situation? And how do you see the esports racing scene growing and one that you're heavily involved in?
I think we obviously reached a way higher level of acceptance already. When I started, my first appearance in TV for sim racing was 2003 or 2004. And back then it was hard as a sim racer or being into virtual motorsport because no one took it seriously. Even the later years, I can tell you in previous projects I worked on and people from the rest of esports, I would say, were like, oh yeah, sim racing. It's like, it's something no one will ever care about. It will never be big because there's League of Legends, there's Counter-Strike, right? And all of a sudden we got this boost through the situation. So it helped the acceptance. I think it also helped in terms of getting viewers to try esports racing because we had that issue before when TV tried to pick up sim racing. The vocal people were like, oh, I don't care because it's not real. But now they see their names that they know attached to it. They see it more often. So there's a higher acceptance for this type of content. So even though I think when the situation ends, it will dip down a bit because we're obviously now in the focus because due to what's happening, that will hopefully go away soon. But we now have a better level of understanding for sim racing in the general audience and the bigger acceptance, which will help us then to actually build what we love together and try to bring digital motorsport forward and hopefully also look into all the new ways of how we could do it and how races could look like to make sure that what we love, that we can do that for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, even if motorsport might not be around. I hope it will be around, obviously. But we never know, right? So we should make sure that sim racing, even though we get a better connection now with real motorsport, has its own unique standpoints and stays valid and important no matter what happened to motorsport.
Well, listen, René Buttler, an absolute pleasure to have you on NitroNights today. I can't wait to chat again with you. I hope you've enjoyed being on NitroNights today and those quick fire round questions weren't too difficult for you.
No, thanks for having me. It was a great pleasure. I obviously now hop on Google and just see Clio and Civic. Maybe I missed something, I don't know. And contact Luke and then figure out.
Yeah, and obviously don't let Jolyon know that you chose him or you didn't choose him over Jack Nicholls. Yeah, exactly. Listen, René Buttler, thank you so much. And to everybody watching, thanks again for joining us. We won't be here on Friday, but we'll be back after all of the race action over the weekend on Monday. Can't wait to have you back with us then. Until then, stay safe and see you soon.